All right, Yadiel, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for jumping on, my man.
Thank you so much for having me, Kyle.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. We had a brief conversation, last week, the week before, kind of getting to know each other a little bit, just scratching the surface. And honestly, you impressed me, and I was like, I got to get you on the podcast. I got some deeper questions I want to go over, and you were happy to oblige. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. I mean, I've been following you for quite some time. So when you posted that, I was like, I have to try and take the opportunity to get to meet Kyle. So again, just happy to
Dude,
be.
heck yeah. Right? Relationships is everything in this game, right? Getting to know people that are
It's
actually getting
absolutely
stuff
right.
done. So I know we're on different parts of the country even, and so speak to me a little bit of about you, where you're at, what I want people to understand right now is, who you are, so that way it helps them kind of put it in perspective of, okay, hey, why am I listening to this podcast?
I gotcha. So we're based out of Tampa, Florida. So kind of just like Arizona. During after 2020, we pretty much blew up. And that's right around when I was getting into the industry. I got into the industry just like most people wanting to invest into real estate. And I was like, okay, what's the best way to figure out how to do that? And I was like, okay, let me get my license and just kind of surround myself with people who are doing deals on a daily basis. Did that, joined a brokerage. After I was in the brokerage for a couple months and just saw that only like realtor activities was happening there, I was like, this isn't
Mm-hmm.
really helping me like with the investment stuff. So came across like, okay, how do you find better deals? And then came across wholesaling. And then I was like, what the heck is this? Spent a couple months there. And then eventually came across Pace Morby, and learned the whole creative thing. So that put a whole different perspective into my mind of like how transactions can move. So during that whole time, then I learned a little bit about investment. So let me come back a step. So I was like, okay, this is how to invest, but then, geez, I need the money. I need the money to start going and being
Yep.
able to go and invest. So then the other question came like, okay, I have my license. I want to dedicate full time towards being in this business. How can this be how I make a living? And then while I'm making a living, also deciding what houses I can invest and not invest and things like that. So at first I was like, let me actually try and be a realtor, use my license, and then that's how I'm gonna get paid. And then just like every realtor started as a buyer's agent for the most part. It only took me showing about 3 houses to decide this is not what I want to do. So
Okay.
um and I was like, you know what? I'm actually gonna start from the very bottom, and I want to build a business that focuses on acquiring off market properties.
Okay.
So I came across cold outreach. I don't have a brand, right? I don't have a brand yet. So I
Mm-hmm.
an Instagram post isn't going to cut it. So how can I start a legitimate business that, feeds me, my family, and allows me to invest moving forward? So pretty much started a whole business of cold outreach. We're at a point where now we have 4 VAs working with us, and we pull data every single month, and we have our entire system going on there. So very happy that we made that decision. We did have to start from completely the bottom, but right now we're
Right.
at a point where we understand what investing is. We understand how to do it correctly. We not only understand but have the resources and the technology, because technology is huge nowadays to be able to do all of these things. We have all of those things packaged down, and now it's just a matter of, now my mentality kind of changed this far into it though.
Oh, for sure.
Now it's not so much more of I want to just go and invest into properties, even though it's something that we're doing. But now what I'm really passionate about is how can I go and just build a hell of a business, like a hell of a brand. And that's kind
Right.
of really focusing on right now. Um,
Dude.
but that's kind of how we got here.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So let me unpack a little bit there. That was fantastic. So you can obviously, people listening are going to be like, oh my gosh, right? Like, one, I think they can visualize themselves in several parts of that, right? Because I talk to a lot of people, and it's like, first off, like you said, you've only been doing this for like 3 years, 2 years, right? You said in COVID, right? You're like, okay, hey, I want to do real estate. And you started as an agent. Okay. Hey, and guess what? I I didn't start that way, but I am an agent and have my license as well. And we do think like, okay, hey, that's just getting more into real estate, right? That's what a lot of times our mentality is. So I find that interesting. And there's a lot of people that go and do that. And then yeah, right, especially on the buyer side, it's like even agents themselves, they'll say like, "Oh, should I help buyers? Or should I do listings?" Right? And they're like, "Oh, I can't stand kind of doing the whole buyers."
Yeah.
And they want to do listings, right? So real quick, I love that you kind of figured that out about yourself. And even what I have heard too, right, is even brokerages you mentioned, hey, you know, the investing side isn't happening here, even though, so that brokerage that you joined, was it supposed to be like kind of pro investing and that they do that as well, or just that they allowed you to do it?
So two things. It wasn't that I decided really quickly that I wasn't a buyer's agent. It was just
Okay.
literally I posted a picture like, hey, just became a realtor, blah, 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 blah. I got one of my buddies through one of my old friends' buddies actually that reached out to me and he was like, hey, I'm looking to buy a house. I was like, wow, it was that easy. Like, this is awesome. Yes, I can
I'm gonna
definitely
be rich.
I can definitely see this. And each commission, it's like easily like, 5, 6, 7, 8 grand and up, whatever the case is.
Hmm.
Exactly. I'm gonna be rich. So um this came like I just want people to understand real quick. When I first made that decision of I want to start investing, I'm gonna go become an agent. I didn't know absolutely anything about real estate. Like to me, I thought that a contract, if I was to send you, Kyle, a contract that says
Hmm.
me, Yadiel, wants to buy your house for 500 grand and you accepted that contract, I thought I would go to jail if I didn't come up with these 500 grand. Like that's
Right.
literally that was my perspective. Like I was terrified to sign a contract because I was like, dude, this
Got
this
it.
could take me to jail. Um,
Yeah.
so the buyer's agent reached out, hey, I want to go see a house. Drove about an hour, showed him two houses. Left the second one. I want to put an offer on this house. Okay, cool. Called my broker on the way, like, hey, this happened, blah, blah. How can I do this? Get home and call me, blah, blah, blah. Walked me through a contract, sent the contract. The contract got approved and
Okay.
accepted. And a day later, he was supposed to, what's next? Okay, they're supposed to deposit escrow. Okay, cool. How many days? 3 days. Cool. Um, a day passes, nothing happens. Hey, you're going to deposit escrow, blah, blah. Yeah, we're looking at it, blah, blah. Second day, the guy ghosts me. Third day, guys ghost me. 4 days, the guys ghost me. Like, at
Oh
this point, we're
gosh.
out of contract. I'm like, "Dude, what am I doing? Like, is the guy gonna go to jail for this? Like, this thing's illegal and stuff." And then so I took a whole learning curve. So then after I really
Mhm.
learned the industry, I was like, "Yeah, no, buyer's agent is not it." And then in regards to the brokerage, I chose my brokerage because we had some friends in common. So it wasn't necessarily
Okay.
like I didn't go after a brand at the time, or anything like that. It was just more like, hey, my buddy has a brokerage, just became a broker. I'm gonna go over there. So honestly, while I was figuring my stuff out, he had already obviously been 2, 3 years in the business, so he had figured stuff out. Um, but he had flipped a couple houses at the time. So that kind of attracted me as well. Like, hey, this guy's investing, he has a
Yep.
brokerage. But it wasn't like, there's a big difference between a person. And again, this was a couple years ago. So him now to him did now, him now to him then it's he's improved as well a lot. But flipping
Right.
a house or two a year, like requires some skills, but once you already understand, it doesn't require a lot of skills, right? Once you
Mhm.
already understand at first, it does require some preparation time and understanding a couple things. But after that, you're like, okay, anybody can really do a flip a year if they want to. So you
Right.
understand where kind of like that knowledge level was when I kind of joined in. So it still required like a lot of learning. And between our first year, literally every commission check that we got, either from an assignment fee or from a realtor um, perspective of like a commission, every single dollar went back towards education. And in that first year, we probably spent a little over 40 grand just on education. So I
I think
think
that's huge. I think
it's
that's
huge.
huge, and people
I
need to
think it's been
understand that.
the best decision I've ever made. 2 years in, not to, like, chew my own horn or anything, Kyle, but 2 years in, I can almost guarantee you that I am far ahead of just about anybody that has even been longer than 2 years, um, already in the game. So, I think education has been by far my absolute best decision that I've ever made, for sure.
That's phenomenal. And I think that's 2 parts, right? Number 1, choosing that, right? Putting the education first and spending the money where you need to, right? But also says something about you, like not just deciding to do that, but there's people that spend money on education, all that, right? But you do have to absorb it and take action on it, right? There are way too many people that, okay, step 1, but it takes both, right? It really does. And you can tell that you're an action taker, right? And in 2 years, and just exactly what you said, right? You're like, hey, get someone else that's been 5 years, 10 years, right? You could be further along than they are right now. And that's why it's not time. And I think this is an important part to bring in because as a realtor, right? Like that's a side part to me. Okay. So investing is my, full thing. And then I do the realtor stuff on the side, and I don't market for it. But I think as a realtor, I deal with so many other realtors, right? Having those conversations. And just because a realtor's like, I've been in business for 10 years, right? I've been in the business for 15 years, right? That doesn't make them a good realtor,
Not at
right?
all.
Say at all. And an investor the same way. Oh my gosh, I've been investing I've been investing for 16 years. That doesn't mean I'm a good investor at all either. I can be investing the wrong way. I can be losing money. you know, there's lots of problems with that. So people need to really understand time, does not equal right skill set.
And I think just to give you a little bit more credit, I mean, on the investment side is completely different than on the realtor side because you can be a really shitty realtor and still get a paycheck. On the investment
Right.
side, you understand if you're doing good or not because unless you filed for bankruptcy or unless you've done some of those things, you're doing some shit right. Right? You're keeping all these assets or you're flipping, like whatever the case is doing. And that doesn't mean just as a realtor and just as an investor, like you could mess up once, or twice or three times, whatever. But it's just always gaining something from that. And then you my point is you can be a shitty realtor. It's a lot harder to be a
Yeah.
shitty investor because you run out of money
No,
real quick.
100%. Yeah, you could literally be bad realtor the whole time,
Yeah,
right?
the entire
And
time.
there's enough transactions happening that you can pick up some and still make money, but oh my gosh, I'm making, whatever amount to pay your bills or even more and be like, you're not good. You
Yeah,
literally like maybe you're just good at meeting people. and
yeah.
that's it.
That's a big part of this
It's
business,
crazy.
though. That's a super big part of this business. I've told people, like, there's people that are making more money than me, Kyle, and they understand like 1/15th of what I understand in real estate. But they exploded on either Instagram or TikTok or whatever the case
Yep.
is, and they got the thing right. Like they're bringing the leads in, but then you hear a couple conversations, and then you're like, that's maybe not the best advice for this, or that's not the best advice for that. You also have to take a look at this and I mean, in my office, Kyle, there's about the number grows or and changes, on a weekly or monthly basis. But last time I checked, we had about 83 agents in our office, and just all around, I honestly think that 90 something percent of realtors are just I want to use the word trash, but the reason that I say that is they only understand things that are conventional, like, an FHA, a conventional loan, pre-approved, or this, like things are so basic within that world that it doesn't take a lot to just kind of comprehend it. And then other than that, you're just dealing with different people's situation, right? Kyle needs a little smaller bedroom for his dog and stuff like that. Those are the pain in the butts. But the
Yeah,
transaction
not overly complicated, right? It's simple, and an example of this that you're saying is I'm literally helping someone buy some land right now and reach out to the realtor who's been in business for a long time, right? And yes, I understand. So I called the realtor, a broker picked up, and she goes, "Oh, we have a different realtor assigned to this, and it's not listed correctly in the MLS on that, right?" So I'm like, "Okay, no big deal. Let me get to the right person." I try to reach out, can't get a hold. Finds out, like she had some broke her ribs or something, right? So, which I know difficult, right? Hard to breathe a little bit, dealing with some of that. But basically, we've had to now do this whole transaction without phone calls because she can't talk on the phone,
wow.
right? And she's just like, "Oh, I can't talk. Like, we gotta do that." I'm like, "You work for a broker, and it's a sign. Like, call your broker and tell her that you broke your ribs, and let me talk to the broker." Right?
Somebody.
Let's have a conversation here. Like, who's making these decisions?
Yeah.
You know?
I
and
think
like
every
almost lost the deal out of it.
Geesh. I mean, yeah, after you're in this business, Kyle, and you talk to enough agents, you really just shake your head. But what I have to say for anybody who could potentially watch this and is not a realtor, and you're just looking for some help in any transaction, I think,
Mhm.
and Kyle, maybe you can agree or disagree with me. If you disagree, please, I would love to hear your feedback. But I think the absolute best agents in this earth are also investors who are just doing the thing. Like you understand the thing, right? You see it from all perspectives because an investor has to just think that way. Like you have to think from the seller, you have to think as you as a buyer, you have to think of all the numbers, like you have to think of absolutely all of those things. So
100%.
to me, I just shake my head when a person's been an agent 5, 10, 15 years and you've never like you don't own an investment property or you've never done a flip just to be like, let me see what it's like or something like. And I don't know if you necessarily have to, but I honestly just think it does make you that much better of an agent.
100%. I think agents, even if they don't want to be investors, right, long term, and they're like, oh my gosh, being a realtor is my calling, right? Like that's what I love to do. Like, even if that's the case, you should be constantly, okay, I want to be the best realtor I can. Like, okay, I need to buy a property or two myself and go through this so I can experience, right, what my buyers are feeling, even if you don't want to hold on to them long term, et cetera, right? But I would advise to, hey, I think every realtor should have at least 1 to 2 rentals, deal with
Yep.
these extra little things. And even if that part's not your favorite, it's giving you the experience and the one up, right? That you can now leverage that information to your clients as they're buying and know how they feel, know what's important. And I 100% agree with you on I think investors and are the best agents. And I think it's tough though, because sometimes, right, once you kind of, when you cross over and you become somewhat successful on the investor side, right, they tend to kind of leave, right, becoming a realtor. So
Yeah, which I think
it's
it's a
that
mistake
middle
on their
ground.
part. I think it's a mistake on their part. Like you were discussing earlier, Kyle, like how being an agent is kind of something that you do on the side. Like with all respect, and I don't mean this anyway, you can definitely brand it whatever way you want. But
Mhm.
I don't know if that's really the way to brand it because is it like you're just in real estate? Like literally what changes is once you decide to become in real estate, I feel like we're just connectors, right? And our job just now in real estate is to look at properties all the time. And people just reach out to us and we can help them in whatever ways. But the only thing that changes is honestly just the paperwork. There's just one question. Am I the buyer or is somebody else the buyer? And then other than that, what paperwork are we using? But at the end of the
Right.
day,
Yeah, that's valid.
just a seller
Yeah.
and a buyer. Sometimes we're in the middle, sometimes we're the buyer. But that's honestly and that's the way that we're approaching our business. Like, we're not just wholesalers, we're not just agents, we're not just investors. Like, when we talk to somebody, we tell them that we do all these 3 things, and depending on what price you want, how quickly you gotta move out, and what the condition of your house is, it's what's really gonna help us to determine if, for 1, we're the buyer, or if 2, who your end buyer is, if not us, and what paperworks we're gonna use to attract those people. It's pretty
Right.
much how we're
No,
looking
and
at it.
I agree 100%. In fact, I would say, because we do pretty much the same thing, right? Every lead, right? Every person that calls in, because we are realtors, right? We can help that way. We can buy it ourselves, take it down. We can wholesale it. We can do all the same things. I think, yeah, I think my main by on the side, I think in my head, I think it's just a smaller portion of the business, right? So I think as you, not every piece is going to have the same percentage, but I do
Right.
love the mentality that you're talking about, right? As hey, as it just comes in, there's just a certain funnel that it should go just based on situation, person, etc. Right?
Yeah.
And I do think it's advantageous to offer all of them, not just for yourself, but for that person, right? And that house that comes in, right? There is a best case scenario, for most of the time.
There is I mean, there's 100% there's always a best case scenario for that seller, and we just put ourselves in the situation where we can also gain from that person's best case scenario. It doesn't just have to limit us to where we're wholesalers and then just be like, "Hey, you know what? I think you should actually go list with Kyle because your house looks in great condition. You're not in a rush. You're asking market value,
Mhm.
and everything just looks great. Like all you need is some professional pictures, get on the market, and we'll go ahead and sell this thing." So instead of having to say like Kyle, and then Kyle just being like, thank you, or depending on somebody else, like, I would have to depend on you. Let's say we're doing
Yep.
like some type of like referral fee or something. I still have to depend on you to make sure you execute all the time, since I'm going to be referring you all the time. So I think
Yep.
investors that, especially investors that have already been agents, I think that they should definitely keep their license, or at least somebody in the team. Like that's the thing in our team
Mhm.
now. In our team, we have about 7 people, and we're all agents. Like, dude, we're paying over $7,000 in freaking MLS
Interesting.
fees every year.
Yeah.
Well, this is new. Like, we're just, if we just all kind of came in and everybody had their license, but it's getting to the point where I don't think we all need our licenses, but there definitely should be a license with an in-house, in my
Right.
opinion.
Exactly. And as in my business, that's how we've decided as well. As I am the one who mainly has the license, and we'll have another agent kind of come in and go so far. But yeah, it's I do always want to have someone that has that
Yeah.
license so we can always help them in that direction. And that's the thing is it's all about your mentality. If this is how you think about it, and you're thinking what's the best for this individual, they absolutely want to hire you and pay you for your services, right? No matter which path it goes. I have a client right now that I'm helping, and I don't really give discounts on my fees, right? This was a very unique circumstance because basically, she wanted to sell to the tenant, right? And I'm like, okay, like if I'm not having to do like there's a ton of this work, right? Of finding someone and all that
Yeah.
other stuff, right? So it's a rare scenario where I gave a little discount. Um, she literally is telling me now, like we're almost about to close. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I am not paying you enough." Right? Like that is what she's telling me now. And that's how I want every single client, right? To feel, you know? And and it doesn't matter if it's realtor, doesn't matter if it's an investment, right? Where you pay either cash or creative, like you mentioned, right? Through Pace Morby's information and things like that. So I commend you. I think it's absolutely awesome. But a couple things you said does make me want to ask a few questions about your business.
Okay.
Okay. Um, because I think some people right now they either might be by themselves. Hey, I'm either a realtor or an investor, solo. Kind of before where you are now. Maybe they're investing in a few properties, but they're trying to say how should this business be structured. And so tell me a little bit more about your business. You told me, okay, I think there's 7, 8 people you just mentioned, all realtors, right? How is your business structured, and what are each of you guys doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, our business has changed a lot. And like, I think I mentioned to you, like when we spoke last week, like even the week prior to last week when we spoke, our business had just changed again. And it's just part of that growing process. So if you are a single person, you just have to, the number one thing people have to worry about, and then everything else comes after that, is how to get leads, right? Goes back to the agent that doesn't really know shit, but it does
Mm-hmm.
great on TikTok and gets leads. That person's going to make more money than you if you just go on YouTube University and focus for the next 3 years on learning something. You made zero, for example. That person just took action. They're making money. But for our team, when we started, it was me cold calling. Um, then since I pretty much built my business out of the brokerage when it first started, and we still to this day, like 3 times a week, 2 times a week, we're in the office still. And
Okay.
then other days were virtually like this. So at first it was me cold calling. An agent came, joined the brokerage, saw what I was doing, joined me. We were both cold calling.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and then it got to the point where we would like book an appointment or do something, and no cold callings happened that day. And I never felt good about that. So
Mm-hmm.
eventually he left to a different brokerage. So I came back to myself, and I didn't like that feeling at all. So I was like, okay, this cannot happen again. How can I make sure
Okay.
this doesn't happen again? So
And real quick, that guy so didn't become partners, just kind of worked with you, or became
yeah,
partners and then
no, it
separated?
didn't become a partner, just
Okay.
another agent that joined the brokerage saw what I was doing, and I was still figuring it out. So I was just like, yeah, come join
Got
me,
it.
bro. These are the systems that I
Okay.
use. Let's go.
Love it.
Um, After he left, I was like, okay, this cannot happen again. Came across virtual assistants. I didn't know anything about virtual assistants at the time. And then I came out about cold callers, virtual assistants. So I was like, that's the next move. Hired my first virtual assistant, and then really like only took about 2 days to realize how important it was when like on the second day I was out on an appointment and I received like a lead. I was like, oh my God.
You're like, heck yeah.
So, and this was a matter of maybe like, just for people's perspectives, this was a matter of probably like 8 months later, right? Like, joined the brokerage, cold called for 8 months. Maybe like on month 4 is when my buddy joined me. He was only
Okay.
there for about 4 months, left, and then hired the VA like literally within that week of him leaving. So hired the first VA. Everything's good. I'm getting leads. I didn't really have a sales process at the time, so I was just winging it. Every conversation
Yep.
in my head, I was like, I don't need a sales process. Like, every person's situation is a little bit different. So how
Right.
can the sales process help me? Um, so then eventually came across some of my current partners, because they were doing the same thing. What my buddy at work had just left. So came across these guys and I was like, hey, we're in the same market. I see that you guys are doing amazing. How can we work together? So we pretty much had a dinner. And for anybody that is listening, like, this is a huge part. Like, since I came into this world, just how we started this conversation, networking is everything. And your team, the amount of people that you're able to have around you on a daily basis is absolutely everything, right?
Love it.
So I've always known that, and every single real estate check that I've ever made, I've split it with somebody. I've always joined other people
Wow.
into my thing, even if it's my buyer, even if it's my seller, it doesn't matter. Like, hey, come on with this with me and we'll figure it out, right? Um, they ended up joining. Everything went smooth. We hired a second virtual assistant, so now we had two. And then eventually, went paying for courses, came up with a sales script. At first, it was just the two virtual assistants were calling. Me and my three buddies were just getting the leads, and we were pretty much dividing the leads up on just calling, or
Okay.
who felt more comfortable with the situation, depending on the notes. There wasn't a lot of deals going on. It was just we were trying to figure the stuff out.
Yep. Yep.
Um, then eventually we paid for a course that showed us a sales script, and I, for once, understood. And I was talking to my partners yesterday about this. For once, I understood that a sales script, or a script, otherwise called as a script, not a sales script, is the same friggin' thing, or goes hand in hand with a sales process. So that took me
Right.
a really long time to freaking understand, because I had a sales process. I just never created a freaking script to match that sales process. So
Mm-hmm.
we did that. That's when we started getting multiple houses under contract, um,
Yes.
on a monthly basis. And right now we're at a point where, again, we have 4 VAs. I don't deal with that part of them anymore. Last time I checked, it was 4. We might be at 5. It's either 4 or 5. Um, and that's the only thing that we've really done. Like, we've built an outreach system to, again, where we have the 4 VAs. Then we did hire a lead manager recently. That's what changed 2 weeks ago. So
Okay.
now from the VAs, it goes over to a lead manager. We've literally directed every single lead to go over to this one person. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this guy's a lead manager. He's going to try and close them on a cash transaction. So he's going to go through that sales process on that first phone call. He's also going to mention
Yep.
that if that cash transaction doesn't work, we have 2 other strategies that might work for them. So he'll go through this whole script. The script on average takes about 45 minutes. So we're also creating like an
Dang.
amazing report, uh,
Yeah.
with these sellers. And this is that wholesale number, right? So it's bottom, like, not everybody likes it. So
Yep.
if they don't like it, he just mentions again that we have 3 other ways, or 2 other ways, and then he mentions like, "Hey, would you like to speak with our creative department?" If they say yes, they get transferred over to me. Just
Okay.
I've wetted my feet the most in that world. Um, and if it goes into a listing, it goes over into my other partner.
Got it. Cool.
So
Cool. I do find that interesting of right, you get that initial phone call and it sounds like right, your initial intention is yeah, the cash, right?
we're
So
investors.
every single person like, hey, we're going to run them through, hey, is a cash offer the right fit, right? Cuz it's the simplest
So
as well.
initially, it's not just the simplest. So the way we see it is, and just to kind of finish on that, Kyle, and then
Go for it. Go
also
for it.
the lead manager, sometimes, like, the conversation didn't went well, or whatever the case is. So we're also at a point now where that's the sales process from a brand new lead, right? But after that lead comes in,
Mhm.
depending on that conversation, sometimes my partner might be the creative
A
genius
follow-up.
if
Okay.
I was the one that had a conversation with them for whatever reason, because we're just like, sometimes at this point, after that, if it didn't go well with me, I want you to talk to him. If it didn't go well with you, I want you to talk to him. Like, I don't want that lead to just sit there and die.
Yeah.
Somebody,
Yeah.
we have
Sometimes people
82
just don't
agents.
mesh.
Somebody talk to this guy.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so it goes back to team, right? I'm not trying to keep that lead as like, a secret. Like, nobody can have this. It's, yo, whatever can close this. Like, I'm happy with $5 over $0, right?
Yep.
So, what was your question right before that? Do you remember it?
Well, so I was talking about the simplicity
Yeah.
of and that the order, right? How you're like, okay, no, yeah, everything's going to be talked about cash first.
So the order is actually for two reasons. For one, definitely cash is going to be that lowest number, right? And
Mm-hmm.
two, it also puts us in a position where we're the buyers. So think of it in another way. If Kyle calls, even let's talk about a for sale by owner real quick. If Kyle calls a
Mm-hmm.
for sale by owner and says, "Hey, I'm Kyle with ABC Brokerage, ABC Realty," they're
Right.
like, "Dude, I didn't you see I put on there no freaking agents? Like, don't call me." Right?
Right.
To where these are people that already spoke to our virtual assistants, so they have already mentioned like, yes, we're looking to sell. So at this point, we want to just be that person that's directly like, we're the buyers, right? We're the people with the cash.
Yep.
We're the people that can make this work. So what we've noticed is that puts us in the door many times to where if we come off as anything else, even if we were to come with the agent perspective first, then it's just like, dude, you're just another broker. Like, you're just another agent. What are you doing?
Yeah, they're already getting that. And I think sometimes, like you said, wholesaling, right? Sometimes people are like, no, I like just as a principle, they're like, I don't want to deal with a wholesaler, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't want to deal with a realtor, like your example, etc. Versus if I want to sell my house right now and quickly, I want to deal directly with the buyer, right? And I think that's super smart. It's hey, and it doesn't mean it, like you said, at the end of the conversation, if it doesn't work, now it's you've built that rapport as being the go-to person. It's like, hey, oh no, this didn't work out, and they're the one saying, no, that won't work for me. And you're being the expert saying, oh, well, how about this?
Yeah. 100%. We've noticed again that gets our foot in the door compared to every other agent that's just calling and like, what value are you providing besides putting it on the MLS? Like, they're getting 30 calls a day about that, right? So you got
Right.
to definitely come in there and provide some other type of value. And again, we're just always trying to that's the word of the year for us, dude. We're like, I was gonna say balls deep. I don't know if I can cuss, but we're like deep. We're
All
like
good.
deep into Alex Hermosi right now, like just learning all of this marketing, learning how to provide value. Like, we're trying to dive so deep into that to where we provide so much value that just the money's just an outcome of that. Like, so now one of the things that we just added like this week or last week to our business too is if after all of those absolute steps, like nothing, you didn't like our cash offer, you didn't like to go creative, and for some reason you don't want to list it with an agent, right? Like, you're not there.
Right.
We'll throw you into a follow-up system. So one of our VAs only does follow-up for us. So he's the busiest. He definitely has a big, big list that he
Yep.
calls
That
every
list
single
gets
day and just
huge.
following up. Um, and at the end of the conversation, what we started adding now is like, hey, like, do you have like a professional that's sending you like market reports or like anything? Like, we're trying to see absolutely all the resources that us as agents have with like our MLS that can provide data out.
Yeah.
And even like seeing like, dude, like literally, I'm just trying to be in your face all the time.
Yep,
So
in your
that's what
face
we
and
do is,
that value, right? You mentioned
yeah,
that value, and it's like, because typically it's like, oh, that market drip of like what your house is worth. Typically, that's your agent, right? That's kind of doing that. And so, yeah, you are trying to, hey, no, this is the one-stop real estate service, and it's no matter what, we're going to be in your face all the time, um, and build that relationship and give value every single time that you hear from us.
yep. And then just to add the cherry on top, one of our partners is a general contractor that has the entire team from A to Z. So, we can also try and start bringing value now, which is what we're trying to do. It's just all about marketing and how do you bring it out to the world. But, like anybody who's brand new in like the Florida market and you're trying to flip your first house, like, we're not afraid. If the deal makes sense, we know where the hard money lenders is. We have all the contractors to do it. We're in this business. Like, we just listed a house last month or I think it was last month. I'm not sure what day exactly it got listed. But we just listed a flip that we would just finished. And that was a super creative deal between hard money lending and seller finance and a it was just a mixture of like different loans. I think we got like 3 or 4 different loans. And it was our first flip with these partners that I'm telling you about. And
Uh-huh.
literally the listing is $1.988 million. And we did it with zero of our money down. And everything was just all creative and all mixed, just figuring ways
I
out.
love that. I
So
love that. And look how many tools it took, right, to
yeah.
put something like that together.
Yeah, and that would have never happened without the education. Goes back to the education, but we're just at a point now where we're also trying to just help those new people that are just, hey, I want to get started. I know when I wanted to get started, dude, I was like I was so like afraid. So
Yeah.
honestly, going through my very first flip with one of my buddies was huge for me. Understand, like it was just everything that I expected, but it proved that it was everything that I expected instead of just me like thinking, because we had done right before I got into my agent stuff. My dad invested into a granite shop. It was like a granite and cabinet shop that also
Okay.
provided services. So we also provided like flooring and stuff like that. It was a one-stop shop within the construction world. Um,
Mm.
so I did that for about 8 months, and then I was like, no, I want to go do this because I want to start investing into the real estate stuff. Um, so that helped me tremendously. Like the only difference now is I'm at the closing table buying it, and then I'm at the closing table selling it and understanding what those
Right.
numbers were. But I understood what like the process was, like what changing a floor was, what um changing cabinets and stuff was. Like I understood, I got enough experience within those 8 months and saw enough of those houses getting rehabbed that I kind of understood, okay, now I just got to learn how to buy it, learn that whole process and learn how to sell it and learn all the numbers to make sure I don't F up.
Right, you had that additional exposure that you were able to leverage.
Yeah.
Um, that I think that's fantastic, and what's so I yeah, like, kind of the biggest things of this podcast, right, with you, right, is it sounds like, right, is obviously learn, education like crazy, right, and obviously action, but the other part is you're stressing heavily, right, networking, connecting with people because in my head, right? I'm like, oh, well, you guys, you guys probably either offer this already or will, but you're like, oh, this other partner, right, has his GC, license. So it's, oh, what about the houses where they just want to list, but they need to do, they can maximize, right, by doing some upgrades before,
Yeah. We're
it's
bringing
like,
innovation
man,
agreements.
everywhere, right? You can add value everywhere. And they should, why would you go with any other realtor, right, to sell your home when you specifically can come in and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I can't change the value of your home if you just leave your home as is and sell it. I can't get you more money per se than this other realtor, maybe that if you're comparing two really good realtors. But what I can do is look what we have here,
Yeah.
right? You want to upgrade? Let's upgrade. Let's sell it, for more. Um, and so you guys do already do that, you were saying, or you could do that.
So we don't brand it exactly like that, but we do bring innovation agreements, which I know is pretty much what you're talking about. So we
Yeah.
do bring innovation agreements to it to where we're clear, like, hey, listen, like we can partner up, we can come in there, do the work, and then you'll get paid X amount after you sell, which is more than what you're currently receiving on all your other cash offers. So we pretty much try to like avoid the hard money loans and stuff there and take some of those
Right.
fees into account, and then we're able to offer that to the seller.
Yeah.
So I
Just
think if
another
buyers
win-win.
and sellers, yeah, if buyers and sellers really understood um how much money all these like different places are making just for the lending of the digits on a computer from one bank to another.
Yep. Oh,
Um,
wow.
they would
Yeah.
just be like, "Dude, let's keep this thing between us. What is it gonna take an extra 3 months for 20,000?" I was just, bitching about $5,000 on the offer. So,
Mhm.
it's just fantastic once you're just able to learn all these things, and it honestly is, like, a lot of people that from the cold calling side, that we get on the lead side, they're like, "I understand you gotta make money," and they just don't understand, like, "Dude, there's a way for all of us here to make money." Like, if you're
Right.
telling us
And
we need to
that's a perfect
house.
example, right? That's a
Yeah,
perfect example with the money, and especially in today's rates, right? Like, it's just that much more expensive, and it's like, there's a reason people are offering you a certain amount of money,
yep,
right? Is because if they're gonna be doing a business with it, right, they are running all of those numbers and there's costs involved. So if you're able to, yeah, dramatically cut costs, right, which a huge part of that is the lending, in the lending world, right? So it's like, wow, there is a better way on a lot of it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I think it's just educating, it's just having patience, educating either the sellers or the investors or whatever the case is. There's one thing that none of us, and Kyle, I mean, if you really think about it, all the investors kind of were very close on the same formula. Some try and get a
Right.
little tricky with it, but we all are very close to the same formula. And there's one number that none of us, regardless of really what we do, we can change, and that's the ARV. Because if the ARV of the house is 500 grand, and even if you had, I'm trying to think of something like, wow, it can only go up a little bit more. It's not going to go up whatever you put into it.
Right. Yeah.
So
Proportionally, yeah. You put in a ton of everything's gold, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
it'll
that's an
be
excessive and it will
5%.
go up some, but very, very little compared.
So it's just not what the area calls for. So that's a number that none of us can really change. So it's just really
Mhm.
educating them. Like, doesn't matter if it's you or me or whatever comes in there. Like, this is the absolute top dollar that your house could be worth. So let's just discuss how much it's going to cost us to get it there, and then we can talk about what it's currently valued at.
Yep. Yep.
That's
And it's all service, right?
that.
It's all
Yeah.
service based. It's like, hey, this is just a big asset. And you have all these investors, right? Or realtors, right? That supposedly understand how these assets work and what the value is. And then it's like after that, it's all service, right? How can I help you maximize on that or convenience or whatever the value that they're looking for is? So I think that's fantastic. I think, yeah, DL, you have your guys' business. I commend you guys, first of all, right? I've been in this business for a long time, right? Like I said, 16 years now. And and I think I mentioned this to you last time we talked. I've been investing all by myself for the majority of that time, by far, right? I did do the education, right? I would learn like crazy and I would act on it, but it was all alone, right? And I grew. But look at what you've done in 3 years, right? Like it's just insane when you network with the right people, of course, right? And get yourself around other people that are successful, that are doing the same exact things you are. You are able to leverage each other, and it's just phenomenal. So I commend you personally on your decision making and the benefit you're able to give all these people. So
I
that's
appreciate it
that's
very,
phenomenal.
very, very much. And I mean, you've done a tremendous job in 16 years, but at least for us, like, it honestly does come from just such a place of like just absolute selfishness. Like, we purchased the sub 2 course, and you're not supposed to do this. Okay. So hopefully I don't get in trouble. It doesn't, yeah. But absolutely anybody, every single person on my team has access to absolutely every single course that we've ever purchased. I'm not holding
Mhm.
that information from you, dude. Like, I want you, like, you're actually showing me that you don't give a shit because you haven't gone through 5 videos of that $20,000 course that we freaking have sitting right there.
Right.
Um, so just absolutely everything that I absolutely get, it's more for like the team. And I honestly think that, what's that saying that goes like, "You're only as good as your weakest link," or something like that, like,
Yep.
that's honestly how we feel. So, I love buying new, like, education stuff and actually not absorbing it all alone. I'm more of the person that tries to get the team together and absorb it, just because you get it from so many different perspectives and so many point of views that it makes it that much better. And then
Right.
everybody's growing at the same time, and that's coming also from the perspective that I've told all my people, like, especially the new person that we just hired, that I was like, "Dude, I don't expect you to be in the position that you're at 6 months from now. If you're there, like, something's
Something's
not
going
going right.
wrong.
I either
Yeah.
expect you to be
Yeah.
your own business owner, because that's usually where closers go. We're just entrepreneurs. Like, if you like
Yeah.
being on the phone and closing deals, you're an entrepreneur in one way or another."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. You're willing to take the beating, right?
yeah,
And so you need to see some of that. You need to see that big reward at the end. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think, and that's what, and so for the last year, 18 months, right? It's been a big push for me to reach out, connect with people, all of that, because I see the value there. So this podcast is having a huge effect on me. So thank you, because it's fortifying that mentality of I'm selfless too. I want the best for, whoever I'm helping, but it's like, geez, man, like connecting with people and doing that together, right?
yeah,
I hated reading as a kid because I was reading the freaking wrong books. right? And then I
I
start
don't
reading
understand that.
personal development and growth, and I just ate that up, and I loved reading, and I consume a ton of stuff. And it's like, doing that with other people and being around that has just been, absolutely great. So I'm looking forward to keeping this relationship with you going as
Sure.
well. Cause just because you're in Florida, I'm in Arizona, right? It's such a small world, right? And we all invest everywhere and we can help so many people. And so I think, it's such a small mind to be like, okay, hey, you're not 15 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
Like we can't be friends and help each other out.
I mean, we're faster than that, right? We're just a phone call away, so it's faster than the 15 minutes. But, you mentioned something
Right.
so important there, like, I tell this to people all the time because this was me. This was me till the mentality change was when I found out I was gonna be a dad. Like, a couple months after I was gonna be a dad, that's when I started reading, like, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I came into, like, the 10X, and those 2 were just, like, the biggest boosters. I don't know if I recommend anybody to read the 10X as their absolute first book, because
Right.
at least for me, it makes me feel like a piece of shit every day if I'm not, like, 10X just because that was, like, my
Right.
introduction into the freaking
Coming up
world.
short regardless.
But, man, you said it. Like, I used to be the type that, dude, I hate reading. Like, I never liked reading in school and this and that. Dude, you had me reading about freaking like fossils and stuff. I don't freaking know. Like, you didn't teach me how
Right.
to do absolutely nothing that I use now in today's world. So once I came across reading things that, dude, nobody's gonna ever take away from you. Like, they're just so powerful. It's honestly just mind changing. So
Yep. My
that's one
brain
hundred.
just values it, right? And that's what I needed. I had to see value
Yeah.
in the end result of what I was gonna consume, and now it's, yeah, those lifelong lessons, I'm going to keep using them, right? And so I'm like, "Yep, let's do this, whatever it takes." So, awesome. I see, and you always find there's so much we have in common, right? Both not just us, but other investors and everything. So
Success leaves
I hope
clues,
this
bro.
podcast. What's that?
Success leaves clues, like, everybody that's so true, success leaves clues. Find out
Yep, and so
something.
we're dropping a bunch of them. You're dropping a bunch of them on this podcast, so thank you so much for that. Before we end though, I like to ask everyone just a couple questions. I'll tell you what they are real quick. It's just three little things. I'm gonna that way I'll give you time to think about it. Um, so that way there's actionable things that people can take as well, right? When they end the podcast. So what I'm gonna ask you is to think of three things. I want you to think of one, and you were just talking about this, but a book that you would recommend, right? And these are all things, these are things that I don't care where you are in your life but your goal is to elevate to that next level. Okay. What book would you recommend that they should read? Okay. The second thing would be either a podcast or a YouTube channel, right? That you'd recommend that they go after that maybe has had an effect on you. And the last one is just going to be a person, right? And that could be a celebrity. It could be, someone that they could go and follow or anything like that. That's the third thing. What person would you say, hey, go do this? And yeah, listen to them and it's going to benefit your life as well. Those are the three
Okay,
things. So what book would you recommend?
so you're saying what book, but then you said after that, it doesn't matter where they're at in their life. And after having about 70 books saved on my, like, to read list, I've
Uh-huh.
realized that you cannot take every book recommendation that people tell you.
Yep.
And
That's
every
true.
book every book is good. I have to say, like, you can easily take at least one thing away from any book, but it's what book is gonna help you the most with where you're at currently in life, right? So, if you're a couch bag, um, then you need to be reading 2 if okay, so here's a can I is it okay if I recommend 3?
Go for it. Go for it.
And I'm gonna keep them super basic just 'cause hopefully at this point, this might hopefully be the last time that if you've heard it in 99 other podcasts, you take it serious, okay? Because it was life
Yeah,
changing
just
for me.
go
I mean,
read the darn thing.
I told you my first 2 books. If you're a person that you don't know what to do with your money, you're just stuck, you're like, "What the heck?" Like, you're just lost, dude. Like, you need to read 2 books, especially again if you're stuck on money. For one, I would definitely read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Again, the oldest book in the freaking history. Everybody says, just read
Yep.
Rich Dad Poor Dad and understand it. Like, we're not meant to come on earth and work every single day for every single paycheck. That's not what we're meant to do. Okay. So my thing is just how can I always buy my time back? Like, that's the whole point of this thing, right? I hear my son up there, like, I don't want, not that I don't want to be here. I definitely want to be here with you, but like
Right.
after you leave here, I'm going to be here to 8 p.m. working, right? I love doing what I do, but everybody likes to get to the point where you're receiving X amount of cash flow every single month, and you can spend a little more time with your family. So,
Yep.
rich dad, poor dad. If you don't know what to do with your money, if you're in your couch and you're a couch bag, and you know you're meant for something better, I'm going to recommend the 10x just because it made such an impact for my business, or for myself, not even my business, myself. And then the third book that I'm going to recommend, which is currently what I'm reading right now, and just
Okay.
because I don't know him personally, of course, but I'm so appreciative of him right this second. And I think it's going to get me to the absolute next level is any book that Alex Ramosi has written. So we got $100 million leads that we're going through right now, but then he also put $100 million offers out, which I didn't buy that book, but there's both of those 2 books. I would read $100 million offers first. It comes before this one. I listened to it on an audiobook. Um, and there's also free courses on his website about both of them. So it's like you get an audiobook, you get a book, and you get a course. And then this is more about education, not education, like how to come up with an offer. Goes back to how can we provide value, give that away for free, and then how can we introduce something that we actually charge to that. Right. So
Right.
like I'm just learning how to actually right now I'm just learning how to really build a business. And this is really showing me a little bit every day as I go reading. Just some of the things that I need to be doing to start building a brand, which is really where I think the next world that we're going into, right? With all the crypto that's coming and all this stuff, you don't want to stay behind. The next world, dude, is F the US dollar, F Bitcoin, F everything. The most important currency to a person is going to be who is Kyle, right?
Yep.
Who is Yadiel? Who is who? Once you have a brand, let's just bring like look at Donald, right? Like Donald can come out with anything. Like I've always said this about anybody who has a following. Like Donald can come out with
Mhm.
diapers tomorrow and they'll sell out. Peace Morby can come out with
Right.
diapers tomorrow and they sell out. Like it doesn't matter what these people bring to the market right now. It's all about the brand.
All
So
about brand, and it'll be verified, right? That
yeah.
brand will become more and more verified brand.
And you'll get paid. And in the future, you don't necessarily have to go create your brand, but go help some of the brands out that intensivize. That's not the word, like that pay you to help them out, right? Like,
Mhm.
dude, what's the word for it? Like referral links, affiliates. Like we're just starting. Like we're at surface level of what affiliates is gonna
Oh,
be.
yeah.
You're gonna get paid per eyes and purchases that you bring to any website, any provider across the entire platforms. And then that's going to come
Yep.
a little differently than the ads, right? It's going to be like the new wave of ads. Now it's just going to be a bunch of referrals, and they just figured out how to make
Yep.
money off of referrals. Everybody. So get into those books. Those all 3 of those would change your life. If again, that's I kind of mentioned what stages maybe in your life they might help you the most.
I
A
love that. That was
podcast,
very helpful.
or YouTube. This one's interesting because I am on YouTube so much. Um, I don't want to recommend Pace Morby on YouTube.
Whatever you think. There's not a right and a wrong answer. Um, yeah, I mean, it
I'm
can
I'm
be
gonna
it's
keep it
okay.
I'm gonna keep it super basic. There's so many of them guys, but who
Yep.
I'm watching the most right now on YouTube is again Alex Ramosi. Goes back to just so much value that he's like putting out there. It's hard
Flooding.
to not just
Mhm.
say the dude's name. Like, and a person to go follow. I don't want to say Alex Ramosi, but go follow Kyle. Go follow myself,
Thank
and
you.
go follow Kyle, myself, and just big people. Can I give an opposite of an advice, Kyle?
Yeah.
Go unfollow everybody who's not providing value to your life. That's the
Hey, there you go.
that's one of the first steps, Kyle, that I did when I wanted to take my life serious. And dude, if you're
Mhm.
posting your booty on my Instagram, like I have a son and a wife now, I don't care about none of that shit. Like if you're posting
Right.
your butt,
Yep.
if you're posting gold chains, if you're posting badass cars, like just like just show off. If that's part of your business, then I understand you're grinding, whatever the case is. But like anybody that was not and is not providing value to me is not on my feed. I go through my feed and it's like
Boom.
a freaking motivation thing, dude. Like it's just freaking crazy how much value it is. It's more like at this point, it's not just YouTube University, it's like Instagram University. It's absolutely everything
Yeah.
university because I only follow
Yeah.
people
It's
who are adding
culture,
value.
right? It's cultured to what you create it to be, right?
You'll
And
notice
that's
you'll notice that
fantastic. And that was my intention with saying, "Hey, go follow this person," right?
yeah.
Like that was the intention of the question. And you actually, no one has said that yet. That is fantastic.
Yeah, you'll notice that algorithm, man, just it catches up with you, dude. Start searching. Start with one. Start with anybody that maybe we just mentioned, and then you'll come across a second dude that's kind of talking about the same ish thing, and like it'll come to a point where you unfollow all the BS and you start following enough good stuff that all of the platforms become so resourceful and so useful, um, and just use them to the best of your ability. Like that's one of the first steps that I did. Remove all the BS.
Yeah,
So
you're not
hopefully that
wasting
helps.
your
Hopefully that's
time.
better than
You're not
just one.
wasting your time, and if you are connecting with anybody on there, right, you're connecting with those people that you deemed as providing value, and that
Yep.
goes right back to what you've been leading this whole darn thing with of networking, right, and connecting with people.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely huge. So, Kyle, thank you so much, bro. This 55 minutes and it flew. So I
Yeah,
appreciate you.
no, this was great. Yeah, this was one of our longer ones, but I've had an absolute great time the whole time, and I think a lot of people are going to get value on this. So, thank you so much for coming. Before the last thing, then is how can people find you though? Because obviously you dropped a lot of bombs here. People are going to want to connect with you both to possibly do business together, but or learn from you.
Yeah. So I was just looking at my Instagram name because I forget it often, but it's Yadiel, which is right there on the screen. My first name, Yadiel Real Estate, and you'll find me on Instagram. On YouTube, we just started doing YouTube, and it's super boring because we haven't taken it like we haven't been doing the face-to-face podcast, which is always a dream of mine. So when I first started, this is what I wanted to do: just bring people on that can provide value to me, and just hopefully everybody else learns from it as well.
Right.
Um, so we'll start bringing that on there. But right now, we're just mostly posting blogs. Those 2 times that we go to the office and stuff, we usually have appointments and stuff like that as well. We're also doing some like rehabs on some of our projects, and we're just recording our day to day on those 2 days. And then that's what we're posting on YouTube. And our YouTube, if anybody wants to go on there and follow, is called The Process. Um,
Mm.
hold on.
I love it. That sounds awesome and it very accurate, right, to what you're already kind of doing and more so. So
Thank you.
we'll
I like
make
that.
sure that I'll have you message me all that to make sure I get it here in the notes of the YouTube as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's called The Process, Yaddiel Amoedo. So my name. So The Process, Yadiel Amoedo. So yeah, I think it fits very into, and it's honestly what I'm just trying to show, dude, the process. There's many people that reach that fame or that high level. And it's happened to you, Kyle. Like you can't go and teach right now. Imagine if you started teaching, dude, which I know it wasn't really possible, but imagine if you started teaching 16 years ago, right? Like not just
Mm,
the not like there's things right now that just your brain cannot go back and how do I teach it to that level, right? Because you're
right,
just so
right.
far ahead of that now that your words can even like come down to that level. So that's just what we're trying to do. Sometimes we figure shit out. Sometimes we feel stupid about things, but we're just recording the process. And when we get to where we're going, can't nobody talk shit. You have the entire process there. You saw how stupid we were that long ago. So
Yep, yep, and it'll
um,
all be verified like we said in the future, and the future is gonna be fantastic. I think your future is gonna be fantastic, and I wanna make sure that, hey, me and you and everyone else we can all be a part of it, you know? So, definitely connect with Yadel, everyone that's listening. We will put his Instagram, the YouTube, everything in the show notes right below here. Thank you once again so much for coming in, hanging out, and just having a conversation, right? That's the number one thing out of everything, right, is all this stuff that we're talking about is just go have a good time, learn and live life, right? And this is how you can provide those things. So, hey, thank you so much for hanging out. Appreciate you.
thank you, Kyle.